everyone. Welcome back to Frankenstein Puppet Part 2. I am taking advantage of the fact that my sound did not record properly to make a little bit of a faster video. So you'll see that I go into fast mode several times, including right now. So here we are. I'm transferring the template that we made in part 1 onto paper, and I am using the red Sharpie to indicate my stitch lines that I will be following for my with my sewing machine, and then I'm using the black Sharpie to draw my cutting line. It's good to do this. I believe I did a 3/8 seam allowance here to make sure that just as a standard, it's a normal seam allowance. I also decided to include a seam allowance with the dart. Originally, I wasn't planning on doing that, but I decided that I will sew my darts with the sewing machine. So I did that for the template for the cranium, and I did that for the template of the rest of his face. So those are the two pieces. And I made sure that I labeled the different parts, including the mouth, where I put a little dotted line in hopes that I would remember not to sew it, but you will see I forgot. So here I was choosing which fabric I wanted to use, and I had a light green and a dark green, and I decided to choose the light green for him, but I'm probably going to use the darker green as patchwork on the puppet. So yeah, that was just my decision. I'm taking a look at the fleece, and if memory serves, I was talking about solid fleece and how difficult it is sometimes to understand what the fabric is, because there's not. It looks so much the same on both sides. So here I'm talking about the stretch of the fleece. So there is two directions to the fleece. There is the side that has a little bit of give, and I'm pulling on that right now. I believe it's normally along the selvage, right there. But if the other side you stretch, right here, that is where you get the really good stretch. And that stretch is what you want to utilize when you're going around your puppet, because it will stretch and form around your puppet. Not the up and down, you want it around. So that's pretty important. Another little bit that I learned on the internet has to do with how do you know which is the right side and which is the wrong side of your fabric. And what's kind of cool is when you pull along that really stretchy edge, it curls. And the direction that the curl goes is to the wrong side of the fabric. So now you know which side to draw your template on, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm tracing it out. I'm keeping in mind the stretch that I'm going to be using. And a little more difficult with the cranium because it's so flat that it's like, which way do I want it to be stretchy? But I did my best. And then I drew the template for the face. And I did it twice. I didn't include both times in my video, but I did draw it twice. And I also transferred over all my markings, including a dotted line along the mouth, so I wouldn't mix it up with the other darts. Oh boy. If only I could go and tell myself back then what I know now. I would have saved myself precious minutes. Anyway, right now I'm just cutting out the pieces. I do a lot of videotaping of cutting, so I just trust me, I cut the two pieces or the four pieces, sorry. Two of the face and two of the cranium. And now I pull out my sewing machine. Magic. Look at that. Um but before I get into it, I wanted to show this nifty thing that these nifty little, I want to call them kind of like clothespins, but I got them at Christmas, and it is a way to keep your bobbins with a matching bobbin with a spool of thread. So what you do is you feed your bobbin through the little pokey thingies. That's the technical word for it. And then you slip it into the spool, and now you've got the matching bobbin with the spool. It's so awesome. I love it. I have so many colorful threads, and keeping them together is really really efficient for me. Anyway, I think you can find them in all the different stores now. Okay, so I'm prepping my pieces to sew all of the darts first. It's important to sew your darts before you sew your seams, because otherwise they won't match and you'll have all these like sections of seams, and then you'll have all these little holes. So trust me, you want to sew your darts closed first. So I prep the cranium darts, and I prep the darts for the face, and then I went ahead and I sewed them. Uh, I believe I'm reminding everyone that the purpose of the darts is to give curvature to the fleece so that it will go around your puppet, the foam of the puppet, and that's the purpose of the darts. So that's what I was explaining there. I didn't show the actual sewing because my sewing machine is missing its light bulb, so I have to do this whole fancy shining light thing. Didn't want to trouble you guys with that. So, I went ahead and I sewed it, but even though I put the little dashes, I still sewed the mouth closed. I couldn't believe it. Um so even good intentions didn't result it, but it looks like I was laughing in the video, so I think I was okay with it. And it really just took a few minutes, and I was able to take the stitches out and start again and just do the darts. So, needless to say, if you make mistakes, no biggie. You can just go and undo them. Um, and that is what we'll be doing. What am I talking about here? Matching? I don't know. Okay. Here we what I'm doing is I'm kind of dry fitting the pieces. So right now only the darts have been sewn, and I just want to make sure that I'm not totally off my rocker when it comes to what I was doing with my template. I want to make sure that it is fitting, taking into account that it does have a seam allowance. But if there's any major mistakes, they will reveal themselves right away, and you want to do that as soon as you can, because you don't want to put all this time and effort to just have it fail. So it's worth doing these dry fittings just to make sure. And it was worthwhile because what I discovered is that my mouth on the fleece wasn't cut far enough. It wasn't reaching the hinge of the mouth. So it would be restricted in how much it can open. So what I end up doing a little bit later is cutting it a little bit open. So I discovered that. And even though the cranium is pretty straightforward, I still wanted to do the, the, the dry fit. I wanted to make sure that there was enough fabric to go over the edge so that I can finish it off uh, fairly well. Um, yeah, I don't have much else to say there. Uh, I don't know what I was saying. It's very, very interesting doing this when you don't have any volume. Oh, look at that! I did sew it. Wow, that was fast. Okay. So now I'm not dry fitting it. Well, I guess I still am. I have sewn the seams, and now I'm placing it on the puppets to see whether it still works out with the seam. And in the case of the face, there was a lot of extra at the back, which is not a big deal. So I just pinned that, and I'm able to just sew it a little bit more closely. And it's important to stretch and move that fleece around as much as you can. Well, I've pulled out my gluing mat, so it is now time to glue the fleece to the foam. Here I'm just discussing how I'm going to remove some of the bulk of the stitches, the seam allowance, so that it will stay more snug to the foam and make it a little bit flatter. Uh, Basically, you're trying as much as possible to remove the any wrinkles or anything in there. And look at all the pull that I can do. What's kind of neat is when you work with foam, it likes to have static electricity that holds it in place, which is sometimes very helpful. So, in the case, because this is my own project and a prototype, I am actually going to be using hot glue instead of contact cement. Now, when I make puppets for sale, I use contact cement because it leaves it softer and more flexible. Hot glue makes it very hard, and there's these big chunks of hard glue, and I don't like that when I'm selling them. But here, I'm just going to be using hot glue. And while the hot glue is, the gun is heating up, I've moved on to the mouth. And it's made of felt. It's going to be the inside of the mouth. And what I'm using here is my original template for the mouthpiece. But what I had forgotten, well, you'll see in a moment, but what I'm going to be doing is drawing one half of the mouth piece, and then I have to add a little bit of a gap between the top mouth plate and the bottom, because that hinge area has a gap, and you want to be able to bridge that little area. And then at this point I realized, oh my goodness, when I was building the foam puppet, I had trimmed down the top mouth plate and made it smaller than the original one. So I had to go back, and you see that there's a second line there, and I had to draw it again, and I was eyeballing it, and then I decided to use my ruler because I didn't trust myself. But it all worked out, and I was able to cut it out, and it was ready to go. And but at this point now, the glue gun was ready to go, so I started gluing it, and I glued it on the inside of the foam as much as I could, because, like I said, hot glue hardens into kind of like a rock, and I just don't want it. I don't want to touch. I don't want it to be felt by anybody as much as possible. So, so that's what I did, and that's what it looks like at the end. And from there, I want to pull out some of my brain matter, or in this case, it's yarn. And what I want to do is add kind of like a scallop of the pink yarn that's kind of bumpy like brains are, like my brain puppet in the background. So I'm uh, going to add it. I'm taking it all out of there first. And I will randomly glue the bits of yarn to the edge, around and around. Okay, I'm still measuring it. Okay. Come on, Anne Marie, hurry up. There we go. Yes, yes. Cut it, cut it. Okay. So I won't be putting it around like a donut like it is right now. I just wanted to make sure I had enough. What I'll do is kind of make little scallops and inconsistent scallops, so it looks like what brains would look like, and to give it an uneven look. And I found the front. I'm starting with the front because that's going to be the most important part people are going to see. So I'll be doing a little bit of the scallop here and gluing it little by little. So that's what it's going to look like. Something like that. And then magic! Ta-da! It's all the way around. And that will be the beginning of the brain matter there. So now that I've got the cranium all ready to go, I need to turn back to the face. But before I can do what I did on the cranium with the top of Frankie's head, I need to sew in the mouthpiece to it, because once it glue it in, I wouldn't be able to use the sewing machine. So what I'm doing is I'm matching the seams first. So the top and the bottom matches up with the top and the bottom of the face seams. And then I go to the quarters, which is the corners of the mouth. And I pin it there. And then I just stretch out what I need to around. Remember, felt has no stretch. So it's all about the stretch of the fleece that secures a nice rounded edge all the way around the mouthpiece, and making it nice and flat. So that's what it looks like there. And then magic! It's all stitched up now and ready to go. So once again, I'm dry fitting it on to make sure that it is what I want. I like having a little bit of a lip on my puppets, so the color of the fleece, so the green in this case, kind of goes into his mouth a little bit. It gives it a softer look to it. And yeah, I'm liking that. All right. So I am debating here what to do, because I need to now glue the fleece, the face fleece, and the mouth to the foam puppet. And I am, at this stage of the game, not too thrilled about how well the low odor contact cement works on me gluing the mouthpieces in. It's just, it doesn't hold very well, and other glues don't work. Hot glue doesn't work at all because of that. It won't adhere to the plastic. So I am going to put my mask on, and I am going to use traditional contact cement to glue in the mouth, and that's where it's fastened. Interestingly enough, most puppets, they're glued in at the mouth. So what I do is Using the contact cement, I go around the edge of the mouth and apply it. In this case, I have some on both the foam part as well as a little bit of the plastic. This was done before, but I did sand the plastic when I was working with it, so it's got a little bit of a roughness to it. I then apply contact cement to the mouth fabric, just along the edge, just like I did the edge of the mouth. And the way contact cement works is that once you apply it, you have to wait about 10 minutes for it to cure, I guess. And then at that point, you put the two, and you have to do it on both parts that you're gluing together. And then that's me putting the 10 minutes on. And then what you do is you press the gluey parts together. And the pressure that you apply to it is what gives it its strength. So once you put it in place, you push really nice and tight, and it makes this unbreakable bond. It's pretty amazing stuff. And then you just kind of poke it through. Contact cement is used for repairing shoes. That's its purpose. So really, my puppets are like shoes. Yeah, so that is where I'm at now in this here, in what you're seeing right now. I'm just playing with the fleece, getting it all lined up and flat and wrinkle free so that I can glue the top down onto the foam like I did for the cranium. And I think that's what I'm saying right now. But he's definitely a puppet. He's opening and closing, blah, blah, blah. And there we go. We've glued, using hot glue, the top of the face, just like we did with the cranium. And the main part of his head is now finished. I did go back and add extra brain matter after this video was done, just to make it a bit more full. But other than that, he looks pretty much like that. And that's it for this video. The next video, we will start working on his features, like his eyes, his hair, stitches, ears, the whole shebang. It will probably be multiple parts too. So that's that for this video. Please subscribe so that you're notified of the next video of this series. I'm very excited. I'm enjoying myself, and I hope you are too. So we will see you at the next installment of this series. And Frankie would like to say bye.